one day I realized, like, I'm in this position, you know, I'm in the biggest stage right now. I'm representing women's jiu-jitsu. I fought the biggest name.
If she were to be anything to you at first sight, then chances are she'd be the picture-perfect date. She's hot and looks as tender as the sweetest-looking bouquet of freshly cut flowers. That's because this girl has got a soft spot for nature and the little but beautiful things in life. She could say that coffee and waffle fries are what she prefers right after jiu-jitsu. However, make no mistake to think she's anything or anywhere near being entirely feminine, soft, or a pushover. And that's because although she looks like she couldn't hurt a fly, things get a little different when she's locked within the walls of the cage on any match day. She becomes an untamed monstrosity.
She's got it locked in on Molchanova. To the canvas they go.
She's trying to get out.
Molchanova taps! And the American Danielle Kelly with an impressive...
From being extremely bold to taking down bigger and stronger rivals with the most insane grappling maneuvers, she has set herself apart as one girl the jiu-jitsu world cannot fail to notice, thanks to her tenacious and extremely skilled fighting style. So, who is she? Well, it's none other than the incredible 26-year-old Brazilian Jiu Jitsu sensation who's been taking the BJJ world by storm lately, Danielle Kelly. Danielle didn't have the easiest of journeys on her way to the top, and while her life was far from being struggle-free, the struggle yielded strength. Chapter 1. Danielle's early days. Danielle's childhood was not the most fun or even one to look back to. There was a lot she had to deal with while growing up. Born on the 4th of December, 1995 to her parents in Philadelphia, Danielle joined a family of loving parents. Growing up, she watched her dad battle a life-threatening illness and struggled with her self-confidence. In little Danielle's bid to cope with the whole situation, she resorted to spending most of her time alone. This affected her relationship with other kids at school, as they began seeing her as a weirdo.
And at that point, like, I was a new kid. Unfortunately, like, I was getting bullied a lot.
Danielle was the target for bullying, since she was rather frail-looking with a petite build, and so the bigger kids bullied small Danielle.
You know, at a point in time, like, my dad was really sick, and I think he wanted me to be involved in something.
But things would change forever when her parents found out. Danielle's parents quickly enrolled her in a gym nearby so she could begin getting trained in jiu-jitsu to help her defend herself.
My mom took me to this academy. I wanted to learn striking. That was like my main thing. Like, I wanted to learn how to fight people.
So, at just 10 years of age, Danielle would take jiu-jitsu classes late at night at the gym, which was 2 to 3 blocks away from her home. Despite knowing absolutely nothing about grappling, the young and quiet weirdo girl had found an escape for herself in the martial art. From then on, Danielle wanted to keep fighting, and she did. The bullying soon stopped as Danielle grew older, and by 7th grade, she joined the school's wrestling team. Chapter 2. Her first BJJ competition. Danielle was a natural and began competing after just 4 months into her training. At her very first appearance in a competition, she would get accused of cheating because the display she had put on seemed just too good to be true. Danielle had already submitted 3 girls on her first day in competitive combat and secured the first place position in a breeze. Danielle had entered the competition under the beginner division, and to clear his doubts, the event promoter asked her to compete in the expert division.
So he puts me in the expert division. I lose my first match, but then the second match, I end up submitting this girl under a minute.
Danielle lost her first fight, but that wasn't all. When the second girl in this more experienced division came along, Danielle submitted her under a minute, finishing 3rd place. Right there and then, Danielle's path became clear.
And ever since, I fell in love with it. Like, all right, this is kind of like what I want to do.
Chapter 3. Her toughest days.
I worked so hard since I was like 10, you know. I just wish my parents were here to witness this.
Much later in her life, Danielle lost her sick dad, and shortly after, her mom too, becoming an orphan and left with nothing But jiu-jitsu, at this point, Danielle's experience of life was not the most pleasant. Notwithstanding, the loss of her parents only made her dedicate herself more fully to jiu-jitsu. The coming days were not pleasant at all, and at some point, the girl who would go on to be Brazil's face of jiu-jitsu struggled with getting a fixed place to stay. But this wasn't going to deter Danielle. Living without the support of her parents wasn't easy to say the least, but Danielle kept showing every day to train. Before we continue with the video, be sure to subscribe and comment "I subbed" to enter in our monthly shoutout giveaway. And now, let's get back into it. Danielle currently trains at the Silver Fox BJJ in New Jersey. Her training sessions typically take on a very strategic approach that involves rehearsing countless possible fight scenarios and honing her response to each. Final chapter, Magic Mat Moments. The results of her hard work would very quickly come to the fore, becoming too obvious to be denied when she began competing at the EBI. Danielle submitted 3 black belts at the competition when she was just a brown belt at the time. And speaking of creating magic moments, Danielle had just repeated something similar to what she did at her very first competition when she was much younger, taking out bigger and more experienced fighters. She quickly moved up the ranks, building a stellar career record for herself, and by the age of 24, Danielle was promoted to black belt. But this was just the beginning. Danielle has the fastest ever girl submission victory in WHO's #1's history.
Managing to get some extension here. Possible knee bar here.
That looks tight.
She gets the submission.
She submitted the 3-time no-gi pan champion, Sofia Amarante, the UFC veteran Mata Ferry, and had UFC's Cynthia Calvillo tap out at Quintet Ultra.
Look at that ankle, it's perfect. It's high-level jiu-jitsu right there. If you're not ready.
More recently, she took home the win against Carla Esparza after Carla suffered a cut just over her eye in the course of the match. Things would only get better for the resilient Danielle, and by the 17th of February 2022, One Championship, one of the biggest stages in the world, had come looking for Danielle. She signed up to compete in grappling and also received an offer to compete in MMA if she chooses to. Fast forward to her debut at One, Danielle yet again put up a crowd-thrilling fight against her opponent, Mei Yamaguchi.
Dropping down, going after the toe hold again. Here she goes again. Yamaguchi scrambling.
Although neither of them could submit the other, ending the match in a draw, Danielle's performance earned her the Performance of the Night award. She would later make a second appearance at One, less than a year later, to battle against Maria Molchanova. And this time, she won the match with a rear naked choke.
Nova's tough. She's trying to get out.
Her last match at One was against Ayaka Miura, and Danielle took home the win yet again.
Danielle!
As of today, there's no telling what this impressive jiu-jitsu talent would go on to be, as it's obvious there's a bright future full of many possibilities ahead of her. For Danielle, she could delve into MMA, but for now, her major focus remains jiu-jitsu.